People were startled early this morning to the kinds of sounds you never want to hear. Right now, several Metro East communities are cleaning up after 4 tornadoes touched down before dawn. Thanks for joining us at 6. I'm Mike Bush.
And I'm Kelly Jackson. There is scattered damage, but no injuries have been reported.
We have team coverage tonight. Let's begin in St. Clair County. The National Weather Service has confirmed an EF1 tornado briefly touched down in St. Clair County, just outside the town of St. Laborie. 5 on your side's Holden Kerwicki joins us live with a look at the damage.
Well, Mike and Kelly, it's believed that tornado was only on the ground for about 2 miles. According to St. Clair County Emergency Manager Herb Simmons, 12 properties, including the barn or the shed that you see behind me, were damaged by that tornado, which largely passed over farm ground. Initial indications are that the storm initially touched down near the farm along Eckert Road in rural St. Clair County. The winds pushed in the side of a shed and ripped the sheet metal off the roof, which collapsed onto the farm equipment below. 2x4s can actually be seen sticking straight up out of the ground as if they were lawn darts. Near the end of the storm path, the twister pushed the side of a home with an 87-year-old woman inside, but thankfully she wasn't harmed. However, all that remained of her 3-story shed outside was a cinder block base.
So far, all the homes that we've looked at are insured homes, so that's a good thing. But, and like I said, we're always pleased when there's no injuries or loss of life due from the storm. So, like I said, this kind of stuff here can be replaced.
Simmons told me that contrary to some claims online, the storm sirens across St. Clair County were activated and they did sound. He wants to remind everyone that those sirens are actually for people who are standing outside and often can't be heard inside of your homes. Reporting live outside of St. Laborie, Illinois, Holden Kerwicki, 5 on your side.
And the early morning storms did not stop there. Other parts of Illinois were hit. The National Weather Service survey teams confirmed an EF1 tornado touched down in the town of Morrow in Madison County, Illinois. That's where meteorologist Tracy Henson has been out in the storm tracker. Tracy.
Kelly, so this area is one that was hit by that EF1 tornado, hit with 95-mile-per-hour winds. It is pretty rural. There's lots of beautiful farmland out here. Now, had this have hit a more densely populated area, we would have seen more homes with damage like this. This one with the roof completely torn off and large tree limbs down on the ground. Lots of cleanup for this property.
I hope I never have to go through again.
Startled awake hours before sunup, Carl Ranke and his wife had not made it downstairs before the roof above them was ripped off.
Looked out the window and I seen that pine tree fly up, so I took off running.
He ran to wake up his wife.
And it was too late. The roof left and lights went out. Next thing I know, my wife's screaming. She's buried under debris.
He helped her out.
By the time we got to the staircase, it was over.
The Rankes and their dog had made it through the storm. Just down the road, Larry Gildner and his wife had a similar but less harrowing story to tell.
And about that time we heard glass, boom. Something come through the window and got up and looked, and it was a board yay long come through the window, and that's what we found.
That board could have come from anywhere. The storm took out part of his barn and knocked a massive tree over onto the house. The debris blocked their way out.
Usually use the front door there, or that door, to come out, and obviously get ready to open the door up, and you got a tree down there.
Both uninjured, they started cleaning up and called for help.
This is all family. Yep, I work with family, and that's who's here.
Surveying the damage, both Gildner and Ranke had the same thoughts.
Could have been a lot worse.
We're still here to talk about it, and the good Lord took care of us.
For the Rankes and the Gildners, I really feel for them and all of their friends and family who have helped them pick up. What you can't tell from this shot, besides the mess that there is to pick up, is just how cold it is out there. Temperatures in the car say it's about 43 degrees, but with the wind chill factored in, it is felt anywhere from 28 to 30. Back to you.
And here's a look at some of the tornado damage in Grafton. Drifter's Bar and Grill took hits to its roof and patio. A nearby business and a house were also damaged. Let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Scott Connell. He's got the latest on these storm reports.
You know, and we've been looking at this. The National Weather Service actually sent survey teams out to many locations, also reanalyzing the radar from last night. When you look at these storms, they're fast moving and they're quick spin up storms. These tornadoes, very small, very brief, not lasting more than a minute or two in most cases, but enough to cause these isolated areas of damage. And there were some other reports of some tree branches down here and there and some other areas of damage. Grafton, that one was on the ground for about a minute. Your peak winds in Grafton are estimated at 98 miles per hour. Over here in Madison County, the Morrow storm, just off to the west of Holiday Shores, that was right along Hidden Acres Drive and Morrow Road there. That had a 94 mile per hour peak wind estimate. By the solar farm there along Interstate 55, that was an EF0, 85 mile per hour winds estimated there. And in southern portions of St. Clair County, St. Libory, you're looking at a 94 mile per hour winds for the top winds on this. That is an EF1. This one was on the ground for about 3 minutes or so. I think that was the biggest or the longest lasting tornado. And by the time you see that on the radar, these aren't the kind of big storms like you saw south of Chicago that are on the ground for an extended period of time. These are those quick spin ups embedded within areas of gusty winds. Look at all the damage reports, though. Kansas City had a tremendous amount of hail yesterday. Of course, the big tornadoes up around Chicago, south of Chicago, around Kankakee. There you're looking at the showers and storms moving away from us, and what's moving in, Tracy mentioned it, it's cold. Temperatures are in the lower 40s right now. Wind chills are dropping back into the 30s. We'll eventually see the clouds breaking up a little later on this evening. There's even colder weather in our 7-day forecast coming up in 10 minutes.